Hey, this is Tony from the Cold Case Project, where we focus on unsolved cases across the United States. Our mission is to bring attention to these unresolved mysteries that need your help. All the information we cover in these cases is readily available on the internet, but we rewrite and repurpose it for the purpose of these videos. Our goal is to spread the word about the thousands of unsolved cold cases still out there. Thank you for watching. If you want to help shed light on these cases, make sure to like and subscribe for more content. Your support can make a difference.
The cobblestone streets of South Street in Philadelphia, February 2005. A city steeped in history, from the iconic steps of the Art Museum to the hallowed halls of Independence. But on a frigid Saturday night, amidst the vibrant pulse of nightlife, a different kind of history was being made. The unsettling disappearance of Danielle Imbo and Richard Petrone Jr. The FBI still lists them under kidnappings, missing persons. The stark facts: last seen leaving a South Street bar late on February 19, 2005. They were a couple. And they vanished. Richard's 2001 black over silver Dodge Dakota pickup, Pennsylvania plate YFH 2319, also gone, possibly with a NASCAR sticker in the rear window. Both Danielle and Richard were devoted parents, each with a young child from previous relationships. The idea that they would willingly abandon their children is simply inconceivable to those who knew them. This wasn't a case of someone walking away, this was an erasure. No Danielle, no Richard, no truck. Just gone. In a mystery like this, we navigate a landscape of reports, accounts, and swirling theories. Our goal: to sift through the fragments and confront the fundamental question: what truly happened to Danielle Imbo and Richard Petrone Jr.? In 2005, Danielle was finalizing her divorce, reverting to her maiden name, Ottobre. Her father, John Ottobre, a local legend as the lounge singer Johnny October, even tasted national fame with the doo-wop group The Four Dates in the 50s. Danielle herself had musical aspirations, fronting a pop-rock band called the Schoolboys, but motherhood took precedence. As her marriage to Joe Imbo dissolved, a familiar spark reignited an on-again off-again romance with Richard Petrone, a childhood friend from the neighborhood. Richard, a single father, dedicated his work life to his parents' business, Viking Pastries, becoming a skilled artisan in wedding cake design. By all accounts, he hadn't dated much until reconnecting with Danielle. The night of February 19th was uncharacteristically cold. Danielle had spent the evening with family, requesting a drop-off at a taproom where Richard was having a drink. Later, their group migrated to Abilene, a bar and restaurant at 429 South Street. This narrow, one-way street, a historic artery bustling with shops and eateries, was the last place Danielle and Richard were definitively seen alive. They socialized with friends, enjoyed a live band, and said their goodbyes around 11:45 p.m. The crucial detail we lack: did anyone see them walk to Richard's truck? Did they even get in it and drive away? The last concrete image is them on the sidewalk as they exited the bar. Richard's close friend, Rick Bellezzi, recalled them leaving happy. Anthony Valentino and his wife Michelle McLaughlin, friends they were with that night, confirmed a normal goodbye. Then, nothing. The next morning, a frantic series of phone calls began. Danielle's brother, John Ottobre, arrived at her empty Laurel condo when their mother reported Danielle missing her 11 a.m. hair appointment. The scene inside suggested she hadn't been home the previous night. Simultaneously, Richard's family grew worried when he failed to appear for a planned Daytona 500 viewing party with friends. In a major city, disappearances are a grim reality. People leave, sometimes by choice, sometimes tragically. But the vanishing of Danielle and Richard quickly transcended the ordinary. A week passed before their names appeared in local media. The initial reports offered basic descriptions: Danielle, a fair-skinned white woman, 5 feet 5 inches, 120 pounds, with hazel eyes and brown hair, wearing a black jacket, cream sweater, and blue jeans, carrying a black purse. Richard, 5 feet 9 inches, around 150 pounds. Richard's 14-year-old daughter, Angela, made a heartbreaking public plea for her father's return, a raw display of a child's anguish. By early March, a $12,000 reward was offered, the community mobilized, but solid leads remained elusive. By June, Danielle's brother John voiced the agonizing lack of any trace. Not a lipstick, not a bag, not a shoe, not a car, not an eyewitness, not a tip, he lamented. Not anything. To find answers, the scope of inquiry must narrow. What could this disappearance be? A willful departure? Based on all accounts, highly unlikely. A murder-suicide? Again, their personalities and circumstances offered no such indications. A tragic car accident into the Delaware River? This theory gained traction later. The families were understandably tormented. Richard's father poignantly described the feeling of being trapped in a perpetual nightmare. Adding to their distress, the Philadelphia Daily News reported that the couple's cell phones had been inactive for 2 weeks, and there was no activity on their credit cards or bank accounts. Law enforcement in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey launched an intensive investigation, scrutinizing financial records, interviewing loved ones, even conducting helicopter searches along the Delaware River. Initially, they stated they hadn't found evidence of foul play, but all possibilities remained open. By April, police publicly dismissed the runaway theory. The central question then became, was this foul play? And if so, who and why? FBI agent Vito Rosselli, on the case from the beginning, firmly stated his belief to ABC7, "I'm confident that it was a murder. That there was foul play." He also believed multiple people possessed knowledge of what happened. While Agent Rosselli remained tight-lipped about specifics, the implication of a deliberate act began to resonate. In cases like this, a common initial focus, statistically, is the former spouse. In 2013 alone, women were 15 times more likely to be murdered by a known male than a stranger, with ex-partners frequently being the perpetrators. So, let's examine Joe Imbo. Where was Danielle's young son that Saturday night? He was with his father, Joe Imbo, for a scheduled visitation. Joe returned the boy to Danielle's condo the following morning, where he encountered a gathering of her worried family. John Otterbro noted Joe's apparent surprise at finding them there and Danielle absent. When asked about her whereabouts, John spontaneously lied, saying she was just out briefly. He wasn't yet thinking foul play, but he instinctively wanted to protect Danielle from any potential repercussions with her soon-to-be ex-husband. There was documented tension between Joe Imbo and Richard Petrone. In April 2005, reports surfaced that Joe had made his displeasure about their relationship clear to Richard during phone conversations and had attempted to reconcile with Danielle. Adding a layer of complexity, reports also indicated that Danielle had told both men, shortly before her disappearance, that she didn't envision a future with either of them. Publicly, Joe Imbo expressed hope for Danielle's return, stating he couldn't bear to tell his son she wasn't coming back. Crucially, Joe reportedly had a strong alibi for the night of the disappearance, socializing with family and friends, some of whom were law enforcement officers. An alibi that some might find almost too convenient. By the summer of 2005, a rift developed between the families, with the Petrones expressing strong suspicions towards Joe Imbo. Danielle's family, however, felt this animosity was counterproductive. Joe Imbo claimed to have passed a polygraph test, a claim authorities declined to confirm, stating that nobody had been cleared in the investigation. In August, a police dredging operation on the Delaware River sparked rumors of a connection to the case, which authorities downplayed, stating they were searching for stolen vehicles and insurance fraud cases, a known dumping ground. 9 vehicles were recovered, none matching Richard's Dakota. The search coincided with what would have been Richard's 36th birthday. Suspicions, a rumored police search, a disputed polygraph, the air felt thick with anticipation, yet no breakthrough materialized. As time passed, media coverage dwindled, and the agonizing truth remained: Danielle and Richard were still missing. The logical conclusion, for many, pointed to a sinister act. In a stunning announcement nearly 3 years after their vanishing, on February 6, 2008, the FBI declared they were investigating the disappearance as a potential murder for hire. FBI spokeswoman Jerry Williams stated that tips over time logically indicated it wasn't a kidnapping. This shift in focus moved the case from the Missing Persons Unit to the Homicide Division. Richard Petrone Sr. described the FBI's admission as a small victory, finally acknowledging what the family had long suspected: murder. If this was a hit, how did it unfold? Imagining the scene, a brutally cold night, Danielle and Richard likely close together as they walked to Richard's parked truck on the busy, narrow South Street. Hundreds of parked cars lined the street. If the FBI's theory is correct, the hitman likely had a description of Richard's Dodge Dakota. Did they stalk the area until they located it? Were they watching as Danielle and Richard approached? An attack on the crowded sidewalk would be risky, loud. But if the truck was parked further down a darker block, a gunman could have emerged from the shadows as they opened the doors, forcing them inside and driving them to an unknown final destination. Was there a second vehicle involved? We can only speculate on the grim logistics. And the fact remains, Joe Imbo's alibi, while seemingly solid, doesn't entirely exclude him from the realm of possibility in a hired hit scenario. In 2015, marking the 10th anniversary, the Philadelphia Daily News interviewed the Petrones, their grief still palpable. Marge Petrone stated the pain never fades, the unnatural agony of outliving a child. Despite no new information from the FBI since 2008, they refused to give up hope. Agent Rosilli reiterated the Bureau's stance: this was likely an organized hit, not a crime of opportunity, given the logistics of disposing of two bodies and a truck swiftly. Investigators vowed to re-examine everything, but again, no breakthrough. On the 15th anniversary, in 2020, the FBI renewed their public plea, highlighting a significant reward, over $50,000, administered by the Philadelphia Citizens Crime Commission, with the Petrone family offering even more, totaling over 6 figures. Life-changing money for the right tip. Yet, as with so many cold cases, the flow of information had dwindled to a trickle. The truck. For many, the key lies with the missing Dodge Dakota. Finding it might not identify the perpetrators, but it could finally allow the families to find some semblance of peace. How do you make a truck disappear? Water is often the simplest, most effective method. While other disposal methods exist, dismantling for parts, burning in a remote location, they involve more risk and potential accomplices. Occam's razor suggests the most straightforward explanation: the truck is likely submerged somewhere. In the spring of 2022, Adventures with Purpose, a privately funded dive research team with a notable track record in solving cold case disappearances, took an interest. Founder Jared Lysek and his team have found numerous missing vehicles, often with remains inside, and bodies of water, frequently attributing the incidents to accidental submersion. Could this murder for hire have been a tragic accident? The 20th anniversary of Danielle and Richard's disappearance came and went. Why do cases go cold? Sometimes, a perfect crime is committed, leaving no trace. Sometimes, initial investigations are flawed. Sometimes, crucial witnesses withhold information due to shame or fear. And sometimes, the prevailing perspective blinds investigators to other possibilities. In this case, the long-held belief in a murder for hire might have overshadowed other potential explanations, like a tragic accident near the Delaware River. Adventures with Purpose documented their March 2022 search of the Delaware River, focusing on an area near a reported broken gate and a launch ramp from around the time of the disappearance. Lysek acknowledged the various possibilities in such locations: accidental submersion, even intentional acts. Their extensive search, covering the riverfront from the Ben Franklin to the Whitman Bridge, yielded no sign of Richard's Dodge Dakota. While Lysek expressed a high degree of certainty that the vehicle wasn't in the areas they searched, the absence of the truck leaves the question of foul play hanging heavy in the air. He has vowed to continue the search, leaving us to await any future developments. Joe Imbo relocated to the Carolinas with his and Danielle's son, Joe 3, maintaining his innocence and never being named an official suspect. Danielle's family reportedly has a strained relationship with him but maintains contact with their grandson. Marge and Richard Petrone Sr. have, at times, made comments that some interpret as veiled accusations towards Danielle and her family, with Marge suggesting Richard was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. This tragedy, like so many, has frayed familial bonds, leaving behind a residue of guilt, suspicion, and resentment. Do you hold a piece of this puzzle? The reward for information leading to Danielle and Richard or those responsible is substantial, exceeding 6 figures. Even seemingly insignificant details could be the key. Listen to the FBI's plea. Contact the Citizens Crime Commission tip line at 215-546-TIPS. You can remain anonymous. Until that crucial tip comes in, the disappearance of Danielle Imbo and Richard Petrone Jr. remains. Unsolved. Frequently, the narrative of a missing individual becomes entangled with the complexities of high-risk lifestyles. Yet, the very mystery surrounding Ray Gricar's disappearance stems from a stark deviation from this profile. Born and raised in Ohio, a fervent supporter of Cleveland's baseball team, Ray Gricar's early life in the Collinwood neighborhood was, by most accounts, privileged, culminating in his education at the esteemed Gilmore Academy. His legal aspirations took root at the University of Dayton, where a romance with Barbara Gray also blossomed. Following graduation, Ray and Barbara returned to Cleveland, marrying in 1969. He pursued his legal studies at Case Western, and in 1978, they welcomed their daughter, Laura. Described as intellectually sharp and exceptionally diligent, Ray swiftly established his career as a prosecutor in Cuyahoga County, seemingly embodying a life of profound personal and professional contentment. In 1980, Barbara's professional trajectory led them to State College, Pennsylvania. Initially embracing the role of stay-at-home father, Ray soon accepted an assistant district attorney position. His dedication and competence propelled his ascent, culminating in his successful bid for district attorney of Centre County in 1985, a position he would retain through 4 subsequent re-elections. By 1991, Ray and Barbara's paths diverged amicably. Following a brief second marriage, Ray found companionship with Patty Fornicala, a colleague within his office. Their life together in her Belafonte residence was, by all outward appearances, tranquil until the spring of 2005. In essence, Ray Gricar's life presented an image of remarkable normalcy. His physical appearance, slender build, receding hairline further underscored this sense of the ordinary, a stark contrast to the extraordinary mystery that would soon envelop him. Friday, April 15, 2005, commenced as a typical workday for Ray Gricar, yet he opted for a half-day of personal time. According to author Jen Baxter, the cumulative weight of years of dedicated service appeared to be taking its toll, evidenced by increasing fatigue. That morning, he extended his leave for the entire day. For Ray, this wasn't unusual. He valued the autonomy to pursue personal interests, often finding solace in long, solitary drives. Around 11:30 a.m., Ray contacted Patty at her office, indicating his location along Pennsylvania Route 192, a picturesque 2-lane highway meandering through the rural landscape between Center Hall and Lewisburg. The spring weather was unseasonably warm and bathed in sunlight. He informed Patty that he would be unable to return home to care for their dog, Honey, prompting her to agree to go directly home after work. As Ray journeyed along this route, a reporter from the Center Daily Times sought his comment on a sensitive case involving a juvenile offender previously tried as an adult. Unable to reach him, the Saturday morning edition noted his unavailability. By 11:30 p.m. that Friday, Ray had not returned. Patty's unease deepened. While Ray cherished his independence, such prolonged silence and lack of communication were uncharacteristic. She initiated the call, reporting Ray Gricar as missing. Authorities reportedly treated Ray's disappearance with due seriousness from the outset, yet his established pattern of spontaneous excursions introduced an element of initial ambiguity. His friend and colleague, Steve Sloan, recounted an instance where Ray impulsively drove to Cleveland for a baseball game without informing anyone. When questioned upon his return, Ray reportedly downplayed the concern, stating he just felt like going for a drive. This anecdote understandably prompted investigators to consider the possibility of a similar, unplanned trip, particularly given Cleveland's home game schedule. Throughout the night, a fragile hope persisted that Ray would simply reappear. Yet, as dawn broke without his return, a comprehensive search was initiated. State police deployed aerial resources to meticulously examine the banks of the Susquehanna River, near the eventual discovery of his vehicle, while a canine unit attempted to trace his scent, both endeavors yielding no results. Their focus was Ray's distinctive bright red Cooper Mini with a white top, a vehicle that should have been readily discernible along Route 192. They even contacted authorities in Cleveland, but the Mini was not there. Then, at 6:30 p.m. on Saturday, the discovery, Ray's car was located in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, the eastern terminus of Route 192. Ray himself remained absent. Sunday, April 17th, brought the unsettling news to the public: the Centre County District Attorney had vanished. His distinctive red and white Mini Cooper was found in a nondescript dirt parking lot on the outskirts of Lewisburg, specifically near the Street of Shops, a quirky collection of antique, craft, and resale establishments. These types of businesses often emerge in smaller towns seeking revitalization, offering a unique roadside attraction. Ray's vehicle was situated in the parking area directly across from this eclectic assortment of shops. Belafonte Police Chief Dwayne Dixon reported no immediate indications of foul play, yet state police in Milton initiated a thorough forensic examination of the vehicle. Within a day, the story had resonated beyond Pennsylvania, reaching Ray's native Ohio, prompting widespread appeals for any information regarding his whereabouts. He was last seen wearing a blue fleece jacket, jeans, and sneakers. While initial press reports lacked specific details regarding the contents of the car, these details would subsequently prove both perplexing and significant. The vehicle was neatly parked and locked, devoid of any signs of a struggle. Ray's mobile phone was inside, powered off. However, his keys, wallet, and laptop were missing. In the initial hours, a fragile optimism prevailed. The discovery of the car, devoid of obvious signs of distress, allowed for the possibility of Ray's eventual return. Lawyer LeDon Young articulated this sentiment, expressing hope for Ray's reappearance, perhaps even with a touch of annoyance at the ensuing alarm. As time elapsed, apprehension deepened, yet the missing laptop offered a faint beacon of hope. Perhaps its absence indicated Ray was still somewhere, utilizing it. Patty Fornicalla, Ray's partner, described him as meticulously organized, someone who would never leave his workspace in disarray. The disappearance of the computer puzzled her deeply. "No," she stated with certainty when questioned if he might misplace it. "No, I don't think so." As Independence Day 2005 approached, psychic profiler Carla Barron offered a dramatic theory, suggesting Ray had been targeted and killed by a criminal network he had unwittingly encountered through his professional duties. Her vision depicted him being surveilled, abducted near the Street of Shops, and willingly cooperating to safeguard his family, only to be subsequently murdered. Then, on July 30th, two fishermen made a significant discovery: Ray's laptop in the Susquehanna River, its hard drive absent. Investigators theorized it had been discarded from the State Route 45 bridge. In October, the hard drive was located approximately the length of a football field from the laptop's discovery point. Despite exhaustive efforts, data retrieval proved impossible. The critical question arose: what necessitated the destruction of the laptop and its storage? What potentially incriminating information might they have contained? Law enforcement conducted a comprehensive review of Ray's professional and personal affairs, scrutinizing his convictions, financial records, and insurance policies, uncovering no indication of illicit activities or any motive for him to conceal impropriety through the destruction of his computer. While occasional minor leads or pieces of information surfaced, none propelled investigators toward definitive answers. In 2011, his daughter Laura successfully petitioned the court to have him declared legally deceased. In the eyes of the law, Ray Gricar was no longer alive. A significant body of thought posits Ray Gricar's death as a suicide, citing circumstantial details and perceived evidence in support of this conclusion. The absence of any signs of struggle near his vehicle, its fully operational condition, and the fact that he left his mobile phone behind all lend credence to this theory for some. Furthermore, a local report highlighted a particularly poignant detail near the car's location. A long-abandoned, rusted railroad trestle spanned the nearby river, its entrance obstructed by debris. On the overgrown former rail bed, a small, makeshift memorial of yellow flowers in a juice container stood conspicuously. For some, these details bore an unsettling resemblance to a past tragedy deeply personal to Ray. 9 years prior, Ray's brother, Roy J. Gricar, vanished under strikingly similar circumstances in Ohio. He departed his home ostensibly to purchase mulch and never returned. His vehicle was discovered 2 days later near a river and bridge in a Dayton park. Weeks later, his body was recovered from the water, his death officially ruled a suicide by drowning. Examining the location via satellite imagery reveals the former railway line extending towards the abandoned bridge near the street of shops, adjacent to a tranquil park with a picnic area and a short, wooded path leading to the structure. It is not difficult to envision an individual contemplating self-harm finding solace in this secluded spot. Ray was known to be a poor swimmer, and a descent from the bridge into the Susquehanna, swollen with the forceful currents of spring runoff, would have been undeniably fatal. This, however, raises critical counterpoints. Did Ray Gricar suffer from clinical depression? Accounts from those who knew him well suggest otherwise, with no record of a formal diagnosis. However, reports of increasing fatigue prompted his partner, Patty Fornicalla, to encourage him to seek medical evaluation. Friends and family also emphasized his anticipation of retirement, a prospect some viewed as contradictory to suicidal ideation, while others suggested it could have been part of a longer-term plan. It is also crucial to acknowledge that suicide is not invariably linked to depression. Financial pressures, relationship difficulties, or even undisclosed wrongdoing can be contributing factors. Investigators found no concrete evidence of these in Ray's life. Yet, the tragic precedent of his brother's apparent impulsive suicide and the potential for a familial predisposition to depression introduce a disquieting element of uncertainty. In 2009, investigators publicly disclosed disturbing internet search queries discovered on Ray's home computer: how to wreck a hard drive, how to fry a hard drive, and water damage to a notebook computer. This revelation, coinciding with the 4th anniversary of his disappearance, ignited speculation regarding Ray's intentions concerning his missing laptop. Family spokesperson Tony Gricar suggested these searches strongly contradicted the theory of foul play, though he acknowledged the multifaceted nature of the mystery and later entertained the possibility of his uncle still being alive. Ultimately, absent definitive confirmation, it remains conjecture. If Ray was anticipating retirement, displayed no outward signs of depression, and did not take his own life, what alternative explanations exist? Ray Gricar's extensive career as a prosecutor inevitably brought him into contact with dangerous individuals, leading many to ponder the possibility of a vengeful act. Cases he oversaw included the 1996 prosecution of a murderer on the Penn State campus and a case involving a witness protection program participant. However, investigators largely dismissed these as improbable scenarios. While prosecutors routinely handle serious criminal matters, violent retribution against them is exceedingly rare. Yet, some argue that high-profile cases inherently elevate the risk. And Ray Gricar was indeed involved in a highly significant case. As the district attorney for Centre County, Ray Gricar held the responsibility of prosecuting cases within his jurisdiction. In 1998, serious allegations surfaced against a highly prominent figure at Penn State, Jerry Sandusky. This revelation may evoke a sense of temporal dissonance, given the later timeline of the Sandusky scandal. It was in 1998 that allegations of sexual abuse against Penn State's defensive coordinator first emerged, placing Ray Gricar at the helm of the investigation. Ultimately, he chose not to pursue prosecution. While reports suggest a thorough investigation, including attempts to gather evidence through covert means, Ray Gricar apparently felt unable to secure a conviction. This decision, attributed by some to the influence of powerful local figures protecting a sports hero, allowed Sandusky to remain free for another 13 years. Could a victim of Sandusky's abuse have sought retribution against Ray Gricar for this perceived failure? While a compelling theory for some, investigators have uncovered no evidence to support it. The evidence, as we've seen, is contradictory, pointing in multiple directions. The absence of a body, the condition of his car, and the missing personal items suggest a planned departure, perhaps even a suicide. The search queries on his home computer, how to wreck a hard drive, and water damage to a notebook computer lend further credence to this theory, hinting at a desire to destroy evidence or conceal his intentions. The location of his car, near a secluded area with a potential means of ending his life, adds a somber layer to this possibility. Yet, the theory of suicide is not without its flaws. Ray Gricar's friends and family described him as a man looking forward to retirement, not someone contemplating ending his life. He displayed no outward signs of depression, and his meticulous nature seemed at odds with the idea of leaving his affairs in disarray. The possibility of a sudden, impulsive decision, mirroring his brother's tragic end, cannot be entirely dismissed, but it remains a difficult explanation for many. The alternative theory, that Ray Gricar was a victim of foul play, also presents compelling arguments. His position as a prosecutor, particularly his involvement in the early stages of the Jerry Sandusky case, exposed him to dangerous individuals and powerful forces. Could someone have sought retribution for his actions, or perhaps to silence him? While investigators found no evidence to support this, the possibility remains a chilling reminder of the risks associated with pursuing justice. The destroyed laptop, with its missing and later recovered hard drive, adds a layer of intrigue to this theory. What information was on that computer that someone wanted to keep hidden? Ultimately, the vanishing of Ray Gricar remains an unsolved mystery. It is a case that highlights the fragility of life, the complexities of human nature, and the enduring power of the unknown. The lack of definitive answers leaves a void, a space filled with speculation, theories, and unanswered questions. The search for truth continues, though the hope of finding definitive answers may be fading with each passing year. The open road. A symbol of freedom, adventure, and the promise of reunion. But on a Sunday afternoon in April 1994, a journey that began with hope spiraled into a baffling mystery. 23-year-old Karen Denise Wells, a young mother from Haskell, Oklahoma, embarked on a 1,400-mile cross-country drive to visit a close friend in North Bergen, New Jersey. What started as a mission of support soon devolved into a perplexing disappearance that has haunted investigators and her family for nearly 3 decades. This is not just a story of a missing person, it's a deep dive into a perplexing timeline, a series of unanswered questions, and the enduring mystery surrounding a young woman's fate. Karen Denise Wells was more than just a name on a missing persons poster. She was a daughter, a friend, and most importantly, a mother. Born on September 22, 1970, Denise grew up in the small town of Haskell, Oklahoma. Her parents, Dorma and William Wells, remembered her as a bright and affectionate child. She was close to her family and especially excited when her younger brother was born. Haskell, a town with a fluctuating population, offered a quiet, rural backdrop to Denise's early life. While not particularly drawn to the outdoors, Denise found ways to entertain herself, a typical teenager enjoying TV, music, and time with friends. As Denise entered her teenage years, she, like many, experienced some friction with her parents. Her mother recounted that Denise began associating with what she perceived as a bad crowd. While Denise wasn't necessarily in trouble herself, her parents worried about the potential consequences. Arguments ensued, and despite their efforts, Denise's social choices remained a point of contention. Denise attended Haskell High School, where teachers noted she was a capable student but didn't always apply herself fully, a common struggle for many at that age. During her high school years, Denise forged a close bond with Melissa Shepard. Their friendship transcended the typical high school camaraderie. They were confidants, spending countless hours together, both in person and on the phone. This connection would remain significant in Denise's life and ultimately play a central role in the mystery surrounding her disappearance. After high school, Denise sought a fresh start, moving nearly 1,000 miles northwest to South Dakota to live with an aunt. Details about this period are sparse, but it's known that Denise faced challenges there. Public records indicate an arrest and conviction for check forgery. This detour in her life hinted at a period of instability and struggle. Eventually, Denise returned to Oklahoma, where she shared significant news with her family. She was pregnant. In January 1993, Denise gave birth to her son, William Blake. Motherhood transformed her life. She was devoted to her son, and he became the center of her world. Determined to provide for him, Denise worked various jobs before securing a part-time position at Haskell Airport. The airport was owned by a local man named Michael Lee Douglas. Over time, Denise and Douglas developed a relationship that went beyond the professional realm. They became involved in an intimate affair. Douglas, who was married, reportedly intended to leave his wife to be with Denise. Their relationship, however, was complex and, by some accounts, strained. The events leading up to Denise's disappearance were set in motion by a phone call in early April 1994. Melissa Shepard, now living in North Bergen, New Jersey, contacted Denise. Shepard was reportedly going through a difficult time, struggling with personal issues, including what has been described as a drug problem and working as an exotic dancer. There were even reports that Shepard had expressed thoughts of suicide. Denise, known for her caring nature, felt compelled to help her friend. Michael Douglas later told reporters that Shepard had threatened to take her own life, which deeply concerned Denise. Denise immediately began planning a trip to visit her. The exact nature of the call and Denise's intentions remain somewhat ambiguous. Some believe Denise was simply going to offer emotional support, while others suggest she intended to convince Shepard to return to Oklahoma. Douglas himself believed Denise hoped to straighten her out and bring her back home. On Sunday, April 10, 1994, Denise set off on her journey. The drive from Haskell, Oklahoma, to North Bergen, New Jersey, is a distance of over 1,400 miles, a trip that would typically take around 21 hours without stops. Denise informed her parents of her plans and left her son in their care. The timeline provided by investigators reveals some unusual details. Denise told her mother she would be gone for only 4 to 5 days. This seemed odd, considering the travel time involved. Even a nonstop drive would consume a significant portion of that time. Denise left her parents' house and drove to a car rental business in Tulsa, Oklahoma, about 40 miles from Haskell. For reasons never fully explained, she chose to rent a car, a white 1993 Plymouth Acclaim, leaving her own Pontiac Grand AM at the rental agency. She departed from the rental location sometime between 10:30 and 11 p.m. In the mid-1990s, tracking a journey like this was challenging. There were no cell phone tracking capabilities, no GPS in rental cars, and limited eyewitness accounts. The first confirmed sighting of Denise on her journey was a phone call to Melissa Shepard from the Indianapolis area on Monday, April 11th. This marked roughly the halfway point of her trip. The following day, Tuesday, April 12th, the timeline becomes increasingly perplexing and concerning. Denise called Shepard again early in the morning from Somerset, Pennsylvania. Then, just 5 hours later, she called from Schaefferstown, Pennsylvania, a relatively short distance. This pattern of slow progress continued. Another 5 hours passed before Denise called from Burnville, Pennsylvania, again, a short distance from the previous call. This raised serious questions about why Denise was taking so long to cover relatively short distances. Was she lost? Was there another reason for these delays? The most alarming deviation from the expected route occurred with the next call. At 5:27 p.m., Denise called Shepard from a Hess gas station in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. This call revealed that Denise had inexplicably backtracked. Carlisle is west of Burnville, meaning she had driven in the opposite direction of her destination. This detour added significant distance to her journey and defied logical explanation. Why would someone so close to their destination turn around and drive in the wrong direction? Lost? Confused? Or something more sinister? Just 18 minutes after the call from the Hess station, Denise arrived at the Pike Motel, a small, independent motel on Harrisburg Pike in Carlisle. Hina Maida, the motel owner, recalled Denise appearing very tired. Denise explained she only needed the room for a few hours to rest, and Maida offered her a discounted rate. Denise arranged for long-distance phone service in her room, took the key, and went to her room with her luggage. Between 5:59 p.m. and 6:59 p.m., Denise received 4 calls from Melissa Shepard's home. These calls, all within an hour of Denise checking in, remain a significant point of speculation. What was the nature of these conversations? What information was exchanged? Approximately 15 to 20 minutes after checking in, Denise returned to the front desk and asked for a book of matches. Maida later recalled that around 6:45 to 7 p.m., someone, later identified as Melissa Shepard, called the motel for directions. The last call from Denise's room was placed at 8:05 p.m. to Melissa Shepard. During this call, Denise said she was lost, tired, and hungry. She mentioned going to a nearby McDonald's for food and then returning to her room to sleep. Shepard then stated she would drive to the motel so Denise could follow her back to New Jersey. This decision raises further questions. Why not wait until morning when Denise was rested? Why ask a tired driver to follow you for several hours? Melissa Shepard arrived at the Pike Motel between 12:30 and 1 a.m. on Wednesday, April 13th. Finding Denise and her car gone, she reported her missing to the Middlesex Township Police Department. Police found Denise's room in order, with packed suitcases and some clothes on the floor, suggesting a quick change. A lit but unsmoked cigarette, Denise's brand, was found in the ashtray. Just before sunrise, at approximately 5:20 a.m., police received a call about an abandoned vehicle on Route 274, about 21 miles northwest of the Pike Motel. It was Denise's rental car. The location was a desolate, isolated stretch of road, surrounded by Tuscarora State Forest. The car was stopped in the middle of the road, with both doors open and the battery dead. The scene was perplexing. The car appeared to have been abandoned abruptly, not pulled over as if experiencing mechanical trouble. The interior was in disarray, with fast food wrappers and other items scattered about. Among the items found were Denise's identification documents, French fries, maps, a pair of shoes, and an empty soda bottle. The car keys were missing. The exterior of the car suggested it had been driven roughly, possibly off-road. The car had run out of gas, despite the fuel gauge indicating a quarter of a tank. Law enforcement launched an extensive investigation. The discovery of the car deepened the mystery. How did Denise end up on this remote road? Had she gotten lost? Was the car abandoned intentionally? The condition of the car, the missing keys, and the strange location pointed to the possibility of foul play. The investigation involved searches on foot, tracking dogs, and appeals to the public for information. Nearly 3 decades have passed, and the disappearance of Karen Denise Wells remains unsolved. This case is a complex puzzle with many missing pieces. The unusual timeline, the conflicting accounts, and the perplexing circumstances surrounding the abandoned car continue to baffle investigators. What truly happened to Karen Denise Wells? Was she a victim of a crime? Did she encounter someone who harmed her? Or is there another explanation? The questions linger, leaving a void for her family and friends. This case serves as a somber reminder of the enduring pain of the unknown and the importance of never giving up on the search for answers. If you have any information about the disappearance of Karen Denise Wells, please contact the authorities.